Are you a part of the stigma or are you breaking the stigma? Let's get into it. Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode here at Peaceful Chaos. Yo, in honor of Mental Health Month, because it is the month of May, I wanted to start this month series off talking about breaking the stigma around mental health, right? Everybody knows that depending on how you were raised, your cultural differences, all the other good stuff, especially within the Black community, there's a stigma around going to therapy and having mental health concerns, issues, illness, and diagnosis, right? So let's talk about that a little bit. When someone says mental health, right? I want you to think about what comes to mind when someone says, when you hear the word mental health, what comes to mind? I want you to pause and think about it. Write it down. Say it out loud. Okay? You got your words, you got your thoughts. Now I want you to be able to ask yourself, where did this idea come from? Was it shaped by your family, your friends, again, your cultural differences, the schools that you attended, the media? Like, where does it stem from? Where did you get this idea from? Because no one just comes up with and no one just has just like this negative idea about it out of nowhere for no reason, right? So I want you to really think about, where did this idea stem from? I had such a bad taste about this, but where does it stem from? Right? So often our understanding of mental health is built from other people's words, right? Attitudes, fears, but not facts. It's not from the facts, right? And granted, one could add in there that, back then, we saw these things that was abnormal, and so that left a bad taste in someone's mouth and thought process, and so they started spewing that to other people, not knowing what it really was, because we all know way back then, we didn't have names for a lot of the stuff or a lot of the mental illnesses that we have now. There wasn't a name for anxiety way back then. It wasn't a name for depression, bipolar, borderline. It wasn't a name schizophrenia. It wasn't a name for all those things way back then, right? So people would just say the different things of like, oh, they're just crazy, or they're losing their mind has gone bad, right? And so how quickly that spread, how quickly and how it stuck for a lot of people until we had individuals come along and figured it out. They figured it out. They said, now wait a minute. We got to put a little name to this, right? So let's talk about the cost of stigma, right? Stigma means shame, judgment, or stereotypes. It tells people they should be strong, silent, and just get over it, right? And because of that, many people, they just struggle alone, right? Even with how far we've come in society today, as it relates to, working and dealing with our mental health, right? Even with all the discoveries now, even with a better understanding, people still feel that shame, right? And that judgment there, right? But the truth is, right, mental health is just as important as our physical health, right? If you feel like, or and understand that you have to work out so your knees don't like start hurting or going bad when you're going up the stairs, right? Or so that you can lose weight because you have an unhealthy amount of waste in your body and it's causing so many health problems, right? All these things. The same goes for mental health, right? If you realize that something is not normal, especially if it's not normal for you, they're like, oh, things are changing mentally. We gotta take care of it, right? And so, just like a physical illness, right, can affect anyone, a mental health illness can affect someone as well. Okay? No matter how strong you are, no matter how successful you are, no matter how liked you are amongst the community and your work and your friends group, none of that is going to necessarily change the fact that someone may be struggling with mental health concerns, issues, diagnosis. Okay? So, excuse me. Another reason I want to talk about this is because a lot of people suffer in silence. And they still suffer in silence, like I said. And so suffering in that silence can really cost someone on the far end of the spectrum, could really cost someone their life. Because some people tend to take their own life if they can't handle it and they're too. And again, this is what I said, this is on the far end of the spectrum, right? If they feel like they cannot talk to anybody or seek help, right? Or they feel like, oh, if they mention something to family is saying, oh, you don't need no medication, you don't need this, or you don't need that. But in reality, I do. Or they do, right? Prime example, I have a client, of course I have a lot of clients, I'm a therapist, right? That most of them have mental health diagnosis. And I'll stick with the more simpler ones of anxiety and depression. Even though they all can be severe, right? But the more common ones, I should say, that people talk about a lot more. I have a client who deals with both those things, especially anxiety, due to the high stress work. And they, try sharing with family, well, yeah, I go to I see my therapist and I take medication for anxiety because sometimes like it's just so overwhelming. And I just need things to just like mentally calm myself down, right? That's outside of what I've already been doing, right? And then you have family that's like, her family, or family is like, oh, well, why do you need that? Like, just sit down, stop doing stuff, right? That doesn't work for everybody. That does not work for everybody. Like, everybody cannot just sit down, right? Everybody cannot just be like, oh, peace, be still. That's not how that works. The mind is doing what the mind is going to do. The brain is doing what the brain is going to do, right? And so being able to simply say, nah, this is what works for me, and I'm going to stay on this train because I know this is working for me, was very powerful for them, right? And I'm not going to allow you all to tell me otherwise just because in our culture it's frowned upon. So that's why it's important to talk about this and to break the stigma that comes with the idea of mental health issues, concerns, and diagnosis. Right? I want to also talk about a couple of myths. So let's challenge a couple of myths here, okay? One of the myths is only crazy people go to therapy, right? Because when you talk about mental health, if they have a diagnosis, more than likely they're going to see a therapist to help manage, cope, all that other good stuff. And if they're taking medication, they're going to see a psychiatrist for medication monitoring, right? So a lot of people like to say, or some people like to say, oh, therapy is only for crazy people. Therapy is actually for anyone who wants to improve their life, relationships, or coping skills. So guess what? Even if a person doesn't have like a mental health diagnosis, they can still go to therapy and seek, or some people may choose the coaching route, but they can still see a therapist to like just balance life issues, because we all know life be lifing. Life be lifing. We know this. And sometimes having an unbiased party can help you like decipher different things and navigate and get other insights and perspectives and all that good jazz. Okay, let's see. Another myth is mental health problems are a sign of weakness. No, it's not. Okay, asking for help is actually a sign of strength, and it takes a lot of courage to ask for help. Because just think about it, mental health aside, right? When you are just struggling with something around the house, something like you need to plan for something, you need to get some things done, or you are the type that always get things done, and you never have to. You always do it yourself, and now you can't. For whatever reason, you cannot do it yourself. What are you going to do? Ask for help. Right? You're going to ask for that help. Because you've reached a point where I can't do this by myself. It ain't making sense. Right? Just saying. Let's see another myth. You should keep mental health struggles to yourself. Absolutely not. I just said there are some people, when we look at the spectrum of it all, just mental health from like low to high, right? We're going to rate it that way. There are people who, if it's high, it's intense, it's severe. Let me say mild to severe. That's the words I was looking for, right? Those people who are struggling with severe mental health may decide one day, this is not, I can no longer do this. And you know what comes next for some of them. Because we know it happens. SI is a thing. Right? Suicide is a thing. So, no. You should not struggle with it by yourself. The truth is, you should be talking about it all the time, whenever you can, with those you trust. Because guess what? Talking about it is one of the best ways to heal. Y'all hear me? I apologize if y'all hear the alarm people outside. But talking about it is one of the best ways to heal. And it also helps others do the same. If we being honest, right? Because if you talk about it, then somebody else may feel empowered to talk about their stuff too. And now you guys can relate. Now you guys can be each other's support system. I'm just saying. Now you guys can be each other's support system. Okay? So I say all that to say, and just to remind you guys, don't be afraid to talk about it. And if your inner circle is like, or your family, your culture, and they're like, nah, we don't do mental health, find a different support. Build your own support system that understands it and that will give you the love and the care that you need and hold your hand as needed and support. And you can go to like group therapy sessions and find support groups. So many options. You don't have to struggle alone. If you are around people who continue to push this stigma around mental health, they continue to thrive in it. All I'm going to say is, let's find you a new group, a better support system. And it doesn't mean you have to stop talking to them. Only thing you would need to do is just simply, we not talking to them about this part of you. And you get to set boundaries around that, what that looks like. And it doesn't mean you can't talk about it in their presence. You can do what you want to do, but you do not have to feel ashamed to do that. You do not have, and you get to tell them, hey, as my good friend once said, if me talking about this bothers you, you can govern yourself accordingly. But I'm gonna talk about this, and that's okay. That's okay. Okay. So again, a couple of action steps to take to fight the stigma. Of course, breaking the stigma starts with small everyday actions, of course. And so here are some. You want to make sure you're using respectful, non-judgmental language about mental health. Share your own experiences when it's safe and appropriate. Like I said, because remember, it's going to help other people feel heard and seen. Educate others with facts and not fears, and then support loved ones by listening and not fixing. So for those of you who are part of the community that's constantly pushing the stigma, that was for you too. I'm just saying. You don't get to, your word is not gold. You don't get to say, oh, mental health is terrible, it's crazy, you just made that up, ain't nothing wrong with you, don't do this. No. And then everybody follows and listens to you. That's not how that works. You don't get to say those things and then feel like everybody, in fact, should just listen and follow you. And no, because you're actually wrong. And you're making it harder for your loved ones to lean on you. So don't do that. Stop doing that. If you're a part of the crew that's been breaking the stigma and spreading the word and the love around it, kudos to you and keep up the good work. Okay? So I'm going to close this out. I want to keep it short and simple. I'm going to close this out with just saying, mental health is a part of being human, okay? The more we talk about it, the more we normalize it. And the more people will feel safe to ask for help when needed. We want people to be able to feel like they can ask for help and not have to continue to struggle in silence. That's not okay. Okay? Hope y'all got something from this. Hope it was helpful. Share this with someone who you may feel like could benefit from this, just hearing this. Comment, like, subscribe, and I will be back next week with another one for you guys. Okay? Toodles!